All right, so we're back into another Dragon Ball Super Card Game video. People have been asking, people have been posting, and we're here now. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen my previous video or the promo or anything, you haven't been following Facebook or Discord, etc., we've now completed the first week of the Circus series for Stage Zero, where we're doing basically a free webcam local S-type thing that goes into a box tournament at the end of the series. This one's going to be a little bit short with a few weeks, but this is actually the first place winner that we have today with Gogeta Xeno, whatever you want to call it. How's it going?
Hey, I'm doing good. You know, I'm jazzed I went undefeated, and also excited to give y'all this this deck profile. I saw the post too. Had like 20 people following, and like 3/4 of them asking for the list. So
Sure.
I hope it helps.
Yeah. And what's your name for people to know?
Well, Cedric's my name, and slinging black cardboard is my game.
Wow. Okay. All right. I didn't tell him to do that, guys. I really didn't. He is under he's under GetEm. If you ever want to hit him up on Discord, and if anything, I'm sure anybody can help or at least talk through the Discord and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
good to have you here.
Name. It's fine.
No, yeah,
you,
no,
thank
that's
you.
fine.
It's an honor.
I think the first thing is, again, this is the Gogeta Xeno leader, and the first thing is going to be the list. So as we take a look here, and as we look throughout all of the cards, you can kind of take us through, you know, your whole mindset and the reasons why you picked certain cards. You can go ahead and take it away from here.
Yeah, sure. So obviously this was best of one. So as you can see through the list, there are some odd choices, some odd one-ofs that that were put in simply for the fact that they were best of one. You can probably see the first card is the one Rebellion Hammer and the one Super Kamehameha. Rebellion Hammer actually works in Gogeta Xeno because you're warping the top of your deck every turn, so it's easy to get 12 in the warp. And once there's 12 in the warp, Rebellion Hammer becomes a 1-drop that prevents the play of a 4 or less. So it definitely comes up. And Super Kamehameha, obviously 4 or less life. You prevent a 3 or less from hitting the board, which actually came up in my last match, round 4. Let's see. Haru, Shunshin Sister in this deck is absolutely wild. So 15k, it gains 10k in double strike when you have the black unison on board, which is PyCon. PyCon pumps 2 black 1-drops by 10k, so she's 25. Your Awakened Leader gives another 10k. So for 1 energy, taking a life from your leader and upticking your unison, Haru becomes a 35k double striker for 1 energy.
Pretty nuts. Yeah.
She's the MVP. The Goku and Vegeta spread, I just made sure there were 8 and 8. Wanted 8 Vegetas, 8 Gokus to keep numbers right. I believe this is a 53 or 54 card list. So I have 4 True Fighting Spirit, 3 of the Catastrophic Premonition Goku, and 1 Son Goku making an entrance just to kind of loop with Power Burst and again be a fusion target. Vegeta is the super combo, which is nice. You can use the super combo as Union Fusion fodder, so it helps streamline the deck. You can kind of have open spaces for other things, and see the 2 Vegeta Catastrophic Premonition and the Vegeta True Fighting Spirit. Bardock Fully Unleashed down at the bottom. That was for probably my harder matchups of Sin Shenron and Dark Broly. Android 16 too at times, because they can go tall with big blockers, with big revenge blockers. Dark Broly, you know, comes into work with their 6 drops. So Bardock Fully Unleashed wipes the board completely for free, and it's a 25k beater. Bardock actually came up in my first matchup, which happened to be Dark Broly. Max Power serves the same purpose, spot removing a big boy battle card. Dark Broly, 9 drops in, 8 drops in, what have you. Petrification, awesome. Black Negate, it's probably like my favorite card in the deck. It's just so good. preventing a battle card from activating skills. Again, mostly in the Sin Shenron matchup. But also came up in my last matchup too, which was against Launch. Let's see. Other than that, like kind of everything kind of standard. You run 4 of the fusions: Marvelous Might, Fearless Fusion, Unrelenting Trunks is a nice interaction where if you warp it off the top of your deck, it goes to your hand. If it lasts on board, it goes to the warp, it goes back to your hand. So it's a nice constant overwhelm where you can put fusion pieces back in your warp and then fuse with them and constantly have that every turn. So once you warp it, you have it. So that's why I only run 2. One of Champa, every deck one's Champa. Mass saying Brainwash no more. That was for if someone tried to go sneaky on me with a double strike, or if Cell Xeno reared its ugly head in the matchup. I had an out to that. The Martial Melee, that's a one of. Honestly, I don't play it too much. I don't really play it against blue. I don't play it against green or yellow usually. So usually either black or red matchups, he'll be relevant, which all I played was black and red in my first round. So he actually won me my game against Vegex in the second round. Other than that, Kai SCR is great. Wipes boards, 40k beater.
Yeah,
I think it won me my Dark Broly matchup. Just swinging on it with a 40k body. Something I did want to point out with the list is, guys, you need the Kai TP. If you're gonna play this deck, you need the Kai TP at 4. I know it's expensive. Now it is.
Yeah, now.
It was like it was $14 at its lowest point. But if you want to play this deck, you can go low rarity on everything else. You don't even need Kai. But you don't even need the Kai secret rare, I should say. You don't need Kai. You can use anything for that. I just happen to have it. But Kai TP 100% needed.
Right.
And yeah. So
okay. That's good.
That's kind of my message there.
I think we have a ton of one-ofs, but I think they all sort of serve their purpose, right? And the Kai TP, we'll probably talk about it a little bit in the when we talk about sequencing, as far as like the purpose for that. I think we have
absolutely.
Yeah, we have the Martial Melee as far as the Super Saiyan 3 Gogeta to kind of restand for the 1-drops, I do believe. We have the barrier, and as well as the blocker that warps something for or less, ignoring barrier as well. And then these guys can all be chosen in the warp as your leader, which we didn't really talk about the leader, but I think most people do already know it. Sends 5 to the deck to the warp, right?
Yep. Up to 5. So that's the important thing. So you can go one at a time. So I mean, we'll talk about it with sequencing, I guess, but go one at a time if you're gonna warp.
For sure.
So, but I'll save the rest for when we get into the next part, the sequencing.
Sure. Okay, so let's talk about matchups. So we had 4 rounds. We're gonna have 5, but because we put it out there, it's gonna be a maximum of 4. We just went up to 4 rounds. You did go undefeated, and the next week we'll have 5, but we'll see if you play it again. But as far as these matchups, what did you end up playing?
So round 1, I went against probably my worst matchup in Dark Broly. The reason why it's probably the worst matchup is, as the Gogeta player, I feel like I have to play perfect in order to win. Whereas Dark Broly, they don't. They can just kind of go as they want to swing at me with 30Ks. So my opponent was a Rockhead. He did not a Rockhead, but
the Rockhead. not the
insult.
His name is Rockhead, guys. His
name was Rockhead.
Yeah,
I wasn't insulted. He knows who he is. He's in another server that I'm in. But so I made sure that I didn't awaken him until I was ready to try to kill him. What was great is I actually forced the awaken on my turn, so he couldn't do the chain of getting 30Ks to the drop, awakening, putting them back, and doing that loop. He couldn't do that. It was a really close game. I think that was the game where the Kai secret rare actually got me the win. not as a board wipe, but as just a 40k beater.
Okay.
And that's where Bardock Fully Unleashed came in. Actually, he had 5-drop Demigre on board. He had the SR Berserker, and he had Demon Realm Ravager on board. And he was at 3 life. So what I did was I played Bardock Fully Unleashed, warped his 6 drops, played the Unison for free, played played Haru Haru, pumped it up, swung at him. He took it, swung with Kai. He sparking power burst, putting him at 1. And then I just had like 3 energy open, so I just kept punching him with 1 drops, and eventually he couldn't survive. So Kai got me the win there, baiting him to use the power burst.
Nice. Okay.
Round 2 was against Vigex. Shout out to my opponent. He was I think it was Pine Trees Bro. Yeah, that's what I have written down.
Yeah.
He was cool. He was kind of getting back into the game. He was playing Vigex. There was actually a play where I had a board of like 5 1-drops. I had Haru Haru, I had True Fighting Spirit, Goku, I had both Catastrophic Premonitions, and my Unison on board. So I play out, and I had the Gogeta blocker. I had the Gogeta blocker, all those guys. I play Haru Haru to try to pressure his Unison because it's at like 6 markers or something like that. The man plays Unexpected Turn.
Oh, yikes.
Just played Unexpected Turn. I'm like,
wow.
Why did you mainboard that?
Good old best of one tech, I guess. I don't know what to tell you.
It was so wild. And he main petrification too. I was like, he petrified one of my 1-drops. I'm like, okay, I did not expect that, but his deck seemed to kind of go in the long game. And I think what won me the game was actually Martial Melee.
Oh, okay.
Bringing out, I actually hard casted Martial Melee for 3.
Oh,
and I managed to awaken, which is something I never do. You never wanna play that guy for 3 energy, but
yeah,
it worked. It pressured him, and he had like, I think at the end of the game he had like a Fu Dark Banisher in hand. So it was like, I think his deck was meant to go longer.
Yeah.
But lucky I managed to kill him before he could do that. And he also played Scientist Fu on me, so shout out to him. I haven't seen Scientist Fu in a long time.
Yeah, I did see that. I remember that actually.
Okay. I was like, oh, all right. This is cool. This is cool. It's a nice shout out.
Yeah.
So shout out to him. He was a great guy. Let me see. Round 3, I played against, I forgot the person's name, but I played AOD. Regular AOD. There were a few AODs running around. I think there was 2 of them, and I think there was a Soul Striker AOD as well.
Yep.
But this is regular classic AOD. The matchup's pretty easy for me, just because they rely on that 1-drop Bobbity. But my 6-drop blocker answers Bobbity.
Yep.
So turn 1, I charged, I passed. He used Hatch, pull out the Bobbity, sat on it. I warped it next turn. He's like, "Oh, you can do that?" I'm like, "Yeah, 4 or less ignoring barrier."
Yeah, that card is super annoying.
it's yeah, you definitely gotta take that out. You gotta get rid of that. So after that, I mean, he ended up playing another one, but you know, I honestly felt pretty comfortable the whole game. I think I finished the game with like 4 life, so I just awakened, and I think I struck myself 1 actually to pump up my 1-drops. But
yeah,
that match was won by Haru Haru actually. Again, nice. 35k double striker. Got her up to like 55. He couldn't out combo it. So, but shout out to him. You know, he's coming back in the game too. A lot of new players coming back, which is great to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was fine. And the final round was against I think it's James Campbell. I forget if that's his name. I'm pretty sure that was it. It seemed pretty simple. Third place person in the third place. I wish I had the list in front of me.
You played launch, right?
Look less awkward now. Yeah, he played red green launch. Shout out to him. This matchup I was worried about because red has all the minusing effects.
Yeah.
So I can pump up my 1-drops, but he can neg them a bunch. So it was classic red green. Relied on the Piccolo.
Yeah.
So this matchup was where petrification came in huge because I petrified his Piccolo Jr. while he swung with it, so he couldn't activate Alliance. He had the Alliance set up and everything. He had the free Trunks blocker. He had Piccolo. He had Tau as well. So I managed to petrify Piccolo Jr. Played my blocker to warp his free blocker with Revenge.
Yeah.
Again, Haru came in clutch as well. He did a good job clearing my board. He got rid of my 1-drops fairly quickly, but what had happened was he swung at my Unison, which is what you should do. Like PyCon's kind of like the heart and soul of the deck for those who don't know. But he left it with a marker, which makes sense because you don't want to destroy it because I can play it for free again with the Kai TP. So he left it at 1, but I used Beyond All Limits SS4, got back my 6-drop Gogeta, the one that tags out or defuses and tags and puts in the 2 1-drops. And I played a Haru, and I just kept punching at him with like a big 25k crit, 25k double strike. And his last turn, or actually off of my fusion draw, I drew my 1 copy of Super Kamehameha, and he tried to play the Piccolo Eradicator a piece again, and I just Super Kamehameha immediately, and he's like, you really teched out for this, didn't you? I'm like, man, I'm ready for BO1.
Yeah.
I'm ready for BO1. That kind of after that his hand was full of like 110Ks.
Yeah.
And Haru got me the win again.
Nice.
35k double strike. So
nice. Okay, so that's good. Pretty good, and a lot of good information as far as the matchups, if anything. I'm sure if anybody has any questions, they can ask about it in the comments below. But definitely good. And we have as far as this deck, since we talked about the matchups, talked about the deck itself, is there any particular reason why you picked this deck over anything else?
So funny enough, we had talked earlier, so I was actually trying to sell out of black at the time and just simplify my collection. But I actually stumbled across a video by Kaio Chris. He had a deck profile of this. It was a 60 card list.
Okay.
And even he said in the video was like, not too many people are playing this leader, don't see a lot of content. So I'm like, you know what? I'll give this deck a shot. I didn't sell out of black. I was trying to, but no one wanted my stuff at the time, so I still had all the black staples. So I took it to 60 cards. Obviously very inconsistent with the mills. So I managed to cut it down to for best of 1, I cut it down to 54. In my best of 3 version, it's like 52, 51.
Okay.
And I just like black, honestly. Like I like what black does. As far as just milling, bursting, putting a bit of RNG into the decks. And this deck, even though it's an aggro deck, it can go long.
Yeah.
It has a good long game.
Okay.
And just like the milling, the sequencing, like it's really engaging for me. When to overwhelm, so you can get pieces in the drop, to fuse again, to set up something like Rebellion Hammer, or set up an overwhelm for the next turn, whichever I need. So it's a lot of sequencing and thought processing. So that's kind of why I like the deck.
Okay.
As opposed to something like a Dark Broly or a Vegex.
I like how you said sequencing, because that's the last thing before we close it out. Let's talk about the like if someone just wanted to pick up the deck right now, right, and they wanted to say, okay, I want to use GetEm's list, and I'm going to go take this into a local or tournament or event or whatever. What should they know for the first three or four turns? What should they do?
Okay.
And this is generic. You don't have to talk about every single matchup, but this is the ideal, optimal place.
Okay. So generally, starting hand, you want Ideally, you would want one of each 6-drop in your hand, either Marvelous Might or Fearless Fusion, the blocker or the barrier. Only because the deck can draw a lot of cards. You're drawing off your fusions. When the leader swings, you draw one, and you can take a life if you want to. So that's another thing that drew me to it, the fact that it could draw a decent amount. But opening hand, you want one of each 6-drop. You want to see maybe one super combo, even though you won't be able to use it till later, only because you might mill them. There were games where I've bursted like 3 of my super combos away. It's like, it sucks. It feels awful, but at least you can use them as fusion bait. So
Yeah.
It's not all that bad. So you'd want to see a super combo, and then other than that, like, it's kind of matchup dependent what you want to see. You can draw a Goku and a Vegeta. Honestly, you want them in the drop, but you can draw them. So opening hand is kind of flexible. You just want to make sure you see it. May be a negate, one negate.
Yeah.
One of each 6-drop. And then the rest is kind of like up in the air. If you see your secret rare, great. Keep it, because again, you can warp it.
For sure.
And I don't play Trunks POW overseeing time, so I can't get it back if I mill it. So that might be coming in the next list. Who knows?
Okay.
Now, as far as your first 3 turns, so you want to always mill, but you don't always want to mill 5. So as I said in the beginning, you want to mill 1 at a time, because if you go full 5 without thinking about it, you might mill important things. You might mill negates. You might mill your secret rare. You might mill something. It's kind of weird. You'll kind of, as you play the deck, you'll kind of get like a feeling that you should kind of stop. Usually I stop whenever I see what I need, whether I see a Goku and a Vegeta. Sometimes I'll stop right there, and I'll only mill 2. Because you want to mill Gokus, Vegetas. You also want to mill your Unison and your Kai TP. Because the Kai TP plays the Unison from the warp or your hand if you have to. So those are your ideal mill targets. So sometimes sometimes you go for all 5, especially if you want to see it. Your first turn, you can kind of go a little crazy. You can mill 5 the first turn if you want. But as the game goes later, you don't want to deck out. So maybe mill a couple, 1, 2, 3. You want to set up Rebellion Hammer too. So Rebellion Hammers are 1-drop when you cast it as a counterplay. And then you just want to fuse as much as you can. You get draws off the first one.
And just depending on what the matchup is, which Gogeta you use, I'm guessing.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, Marvelous Might has a stipulation your opponent has to have 2 or more energy. So you're not using Marvelous Might unless it's your turn 3 or their turn
2.
3? Turn 2. Their turn 2.
Yeah. After their turn 2, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, after their turn 2 you can play it. So obviously Marvelous Might is probably the MVP in the deck because he tags out and brings out the 2 1-drops, but Fearless Fusion is a great starting card, especially if you have your Unison out, because the deck surprisingly has a decent amount of defense, at least my version, because I run the 16k blockers and I run Tag Team Gohans, which play off of all my Overrealms and off of Marvelous Might. When he goes to the bottom of the deck, you can play Tag Team Gohan as a free blocker, because you want to protect the Unison. So Gogeta being a 16k blocker, it helps, because even if they swing at a 15k, they got a combo up.
Right.
And more often than not, they don't want to combo away a card that early just to get rid of the blocker. So generally the blocker does live a lot. So if you play the Unison early, make sure you can fuse for the blocker or get tag team out. And then so that's usually turns 1 and 2. So turn 1, play the Unison if you want. Play the blocker since the Unison comes out for free. Turn 2, you play the 6-drop barrier, tag it out. play one drops from your warp or your drop area. Either the catastrophic premonitions if you just want to pressure, or you can go into the true fighting spirits if you want to tax your opponent on counters, or if you're playing blue, Vegeta true fighting spirit taxes them as well. Then turn 3,
just turn sideways probably.
Yeah, turn sideways. That's that's your awaken turn usually too. Typically, usually around turn 3 is my awaken. So you're playing with 4 energy, and like I said, the longer the game goes, the more it favors Gogeta because I'm not using that much energy, and the more energy I have, the more 1-drops I can put out there. Right. And then between the unison and the leader ability, I can pump them up as I see fit, especially against red because of violent rays.
Yeah.
So that's one thing too. If you're facing violent rays, you want to kind of dance around violent rays like Fred Astaire. You know, you want to like pump up all your 1-drops maybe once to make them 15Ks. So that way it's kind of useless for them. Yeah. So deck, so it can go long, usually around turn 4, sometimes turn 5. I try to kill them.
Okay.
Turn 3 as well. Turn 3 is a nice kill too if you can pull that off. But typically I'd say turn 4 more often than not is when I usually kill my opponent, either with the little 1-drops or Kai attached with a Champa or something like that. So or one of my free overwhelms.
For sure. And I think if it does, not to cut you off, but if it does help, I think we do have Rob's Legend of Drosty. I think he was streaming your Vegex matchup, so maybe that'll help a little bit too, for those who might want to see some gameplay.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the deck is really fun. The deck is, I think it's a sleeper, honestly. Because I know it's like for black decks, you know, Dark Broly's the cream of the crop. Vegex has been catching a lot of steam lately, but I think honestly this deck can go toe to toe with Vegex. On all the Vegex I've played so far, it's I mean I've done pretty well. I've just managed to get the game go long enough.
Yeah, and that kind of brings us to the last thing, which is closing thoughts. I guess that sort of answers that. And do you want to continue to play this into set 13, or do you want to play something else?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this will be still my main deck through set 13. There's that new TP coming out, SS3 Gogeta throwing the Dark Empire, which honestly like solves the deck's main issue of spot removal. So once I get my hands on those, I can take out max power from the main. I can take out the Bardock fully unleashed, and I can have like those there just to be my spot removal. So I'm actually looking forward to that.
Okay.
Honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, nice. So I'll probably keep playing this. I'll probably play yellow androids too, because that deck looks really cool.
It's a fun deck, if anything. Well, if anything, awesome. Let us know what you think. Join the Discord at him and bother him if you have any questions. I'm sure 100 people will do that right now. That'll be perfect. And again, thank you for taking the time. We have a lot of good information. There's probably gonna be some timestamps in the description, so that way people can kind of find what they need. But yeah, any other shout outs? Anything else you want to say?
Yeah. Shout out to the Hermit Style Discord. That's where I kind of got my training with this deck and got beat down a lot by Dark Broly and other decks. So that kind of helped me.
Yeah.
So shout out to them. Shout out to you guys for doing this circuit series. Like it's amazing that you guys are kind of doing that for everybody who maybe doesn't have locals, or maybe if they do, maybe they just don't feel safe at locals, you know, with what's happening. So shout out to Stage Zero for hosting this.
For sure.
Couple of their test buddies, Adam and Tony. Thank you guys for helping me test and either dying on turn 3 to this deck or like somehow beating me. So shout out to you guys. Yeah, I'll definitely be back next week. I don't know if I'll bring Gogeta again. I might bring something more fun. But it was exciting to go undefeated and have this opportunity. So thank you for having me on your channel, bro. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. If anything, let us know. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye
What's up,
bye.
guys? Bye.